Welcome to Learning to eLearn, a short tutorial preparing you for online success. I'm Ryan Watkins, a professor of education at the George Washington University. When taking online or distance education courses, it's important to know what is your path towards success. The path can go in many directions, but we want to look through some tips and resources during this tutorial that will help you find your success. You may not have thought about what it takes to learn to e-learn, but most of us have developed valuable study skills when we were in high school, college, or while taking corporate training programs. But will those skills help us as we move online? The answer is a mix. It's yes and no. E-learning requires that we take some steps to adapt our old skills to be suitable for the new environment. At times, we'll have to adopt some new study skills as well. At the same time, we're probably going to have to develop some technical skills that we haven't developed previously. And in the end, we have to be able to integrate all of this into an effective e learning strategy. So, what could this look like? Well, it's typically a mix of e learning success skills, such as being able to access the right information, compare and contrast, communicate with your peers and instructors. Synthesize, download, browsing, and searching are all skills necessary for online success. At the same time, e learning is still about learning, so we have to develop study habits, manage our time, learn to read effectively, think critically, take tests, and take effective notes. Now, fortunately, most of us have developed some good technical skills. We're probably all adept now at sending emails and text, shopping online, streaming music and videos, playing games, or using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media. But there may be some things that we're not quite as good at yet that are really essential to being successful in online and distance education courses, such as how do we communicate clearly and effectively? How can we use the tools available to us to stay organized? How can we increase our comprehension of what we read online, both readings from the instructor as well as readings in discussion areas? How can we apply our critical thinking skills in this new media? How can we take notes? What tools do we have for synthesizing information across multiple websites? These are just some of the things that we want to think about as we start focusing on how are we going to learn in our e-learning courses. I have some tips for your success. The first tip is assess and reflect on your readiness. Assess both your technical skills and your study skills. So, do you have the skills for using Microsoft Word effectively, or turning those into Adobe Acrobat files and uploading those to Google Drive? Have you thought about how you're going to take notes? In the past, you may have used highlighters and written notes in the margins, but what will that look like online? You want to determine if you're truly ready to learn from the experience, and then build the skills so you can get the most out of your e-learning courses. You may have to update some of your study skills. Some of the skills that got you through high school and college may not ultimately be enough to get you through an online learning course. For example, you may be proficient at taking notes during a lecture, but how are you going to do that when the streaming video or audio presentation? You'll want to take advantage of technologies as well. Think about how you can use Box or Google Drive or other systems to share files between your work and home computers or even to your phone or tablet. You'll want to practice these before classes begin so that you don't have to learn as you're going. Learning is not a passive activity, and neither is e-learning. E-learning requires your active participation. So think now about how you'll be an active learner. How will you take notes during online readings? How will you participate in chats? Will you take notes during those chats? How will you manage your study habits and your time? Will you use online study groups? All of these are considerations as you learn to e-learn. E-learning typically requires a great deal of communication, and you'll want to learn to communicate effectively online. From email and text messaging to chat and video conferences, you'll use a variety of technologies. Some of them are text only, and in those situations you'll want to think about how will you compensate for nonverbal language. Similarly, you'll want to consider what type of jargon is appropriate. Can you use slang? Would a joke really communicate what you think it might communicate, or could someone be offended? Continually working to improve your writing skills is always useful in graduate school. So familiarize yourself with the American Psychological Association, APA, guidelines for citation and referencing. Also, remember the basics. Think back to elementary school. Good paragraphs have an introduction, supporting sentences, and a closing transition. Papers should be organized in a structured way. Outlining before you write can be very helpful. Many students also find that it's useful to write their responses in Microsoft Word and then cut and paste that into Blackboard. You can practice on your writing skills, and this will pay off with high rewards. In online learning, you will be in Teams environments many times in your courses, and these may require some new skills, some adaptation of skills that you've learned from working in the workplace or in previous courses. But now it's time to think about how those translate to online environments. When you're working with a team, be sure to identify the team roles. Who's going to be leader? Who's going to be note taker? Who's going to help set a communication strategy? Think about motivating the others. Use a variety of different collaboration tools. In the end, you'll have to have a great deal of patience, understanding, and flexibility to work around the various schedules of those on the team. But do the best you can to set a schedule and stick to it. Maybe it's Mondays and Wednesday evenings. Maybe it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings. Set a schedule and then try to stick with it the best you can as a team. You'll want to create a good study environment. Both your physical environment, the chairs, the lighting, the external noises, are important to your studying. Also, your online environment is important. Think about the size of the font. Think about all the different apps you might have running. When you do your online readings, will you turn off your email? Is Skype turned off so no one will disturb you while you're on a conference call with your teammates? These are all considerations that you want to have when you're working in an online course. It's also important to stay organized. Use the online tools like Box and Google Drive to keep your files organized, sharing the folders that are appropriate to share, and keeping the other ones private. This will all help make sure that you are ready to learn when you sit down to start any e-learning activity. You'll want to be able to evaluate online resources for your e-learning assignments, discussions, and other course requirements. There's lots of information online. Not all of it is accurate, and so you'll want to be careful when you're looking for resources. So for example, don't mistakenly quote theonion.com, which is a satire newspaper, as being evidence for an argument you're trying to make. And be careful when you use Wikipedia. It's a great starting place, but you're not really sure if the information has always been spot-checked as well as it probably should be. You can also think about having standard criteria for evaluating online resources, looking at the source reliability, the quality of the information, and where the information is consistent and inconsistent. I have some worksheets available on my website. And in the end, don't confuse searching for information with doing research. Research involves the analysis and synthesis, whereas searching is just looking about to see what you can find. Be sure to manage your time wisely. There will be a great deal going on in your e-learning courses, and you're trying to balance that against work commitments, personal commitments, and other things that you just have going on. As things come up, be sure to talk with your instructor. Don't wait until after you miss the deadline to tell them that something is happening outside in your personal or work life. We can work with you much more easily if we know ahead of time. It's also useful for most students to plan their study times. So maybe you study on Tuesday nights after you get home, Thursday mornings you have a short period, and then on Saturday mornings you post things to discussion boards, and on Sunday you submit assignments or consider upcoming deadlines. Whatever the schedule is, set a schedule as best you can and try to keep to it. This is especially important in your first couple of e-learning courses until you get into the rhythm of how they work and what's going to work best for your success. There are a number of time-saving technologies that you can use to improve what you're doing during your e-learning courses. Get familiar with your keyboard shortcuts. Control-X is the cut. Alt-Tab will allow you to jump between different applications you have running. You can also use the right click on a mouse or the control click on your laptop to get access to additional menu items. Most modern browsers allow you to have plugins and add-ons that will add features that might be useful. Don't forget you have a phone and tablet most likely too, and you can use those as additional resources as you try to keep up with your e-learning materials. Choosing your search engines wisely is also a valuable skill. Sometimes Google is the best search. Sometimes Google Scholar is a better search. Sometimes you might want to look at a search engine like Yahoo even, one that will help you analyze and break information down a little differently. There are many Blackboard tutorials available on YouTube as well. There can be lots of tips and tricks to using the Blackboard learning management system that we use here at George Washington University. E-learning can be fun, interactive, engaging, and a wonderful learning experience. But some of that is up to you. You have to be prepared to be the best student that you can be. There are more tips and resources in the E-Learning Companion, a student's guide to online success, a book co-authored by myself and Dr. Corey. Thank you for joining us for this short tutorial, and the best of luck in your e-learning courses.